Right. Welcome to week 3 of mobile APIs and frameworks. It is June 4th, and we are carrying on from last week. So we had JSON. We talked about the where the ISS um, API, the third-party API. Who remembers what we did with the ISS API? Who wants to explain what we built?
If I remember correctly, we made like a website that shows a map using is it leaflet or something like that,
Yep.
and then uh we put a little pin or marker corresponding to the current location of the ISS.
Perfect. Nice. Yeah, exactly. That's what we did. Perfect. I might as well share my screen here. Yes, we looked at what JSON is, how to create JSON data, view JSON data in our browser, and then let me know if you guys see this. Perfect. I think that's sharing. Cool. So yeah, JavaScript object notation, um, exchanging data. So this was an example that we looked at. We use this JSON viewer.stack.hu, and then yeah, exactly what Nina said. So we used this website where the ISS at. If you visit it, it shows you this. And then we created kind of our own where the ISS. Using this code here, we basically took the latitude and longitude from the data that we were pulling in our fetch method, and then we put it into document.getElement by ID, change the text content, and put it in that span right there by the lat and lat. And then basically what we did was, yeah, we used a mapping um, tool called Leaflet, and then we mapped a pin or a marker onto that latitude and longitude location. Cool. We're going to talk about assignment 1. So I believe it's on Blackboard. You guys can tell me. Maybe it's not. Assignments and tests. Oh, it's not. Okay, well, I will create it right now. Assignment 1 is coming up in mobile APIs and frameworks. So here it is right here. It's due June 11th. Okay, if you want to put it in your calendars. Assignment 1, due June 11th. I will upload the file right now so you guys can download it and look at it at the same time as me. Is teaching Georgian mobile APIs and frameworks week 3, assignment 1. All right. Due date June 11th at 11:59 p.m. So that's next week Friday. All right. You guys have 1 week. What am I going to make it? It's worth 14% of your mark. Get out of 14. It is available and we will display it. Let me know if you guys can see that. That is in assignments and tests. All right, and this is what it looks like. Okay, so basically, you're going to build a similar website to what we covered in last week, where the ISS site. I can show you guys that example again for those of you who might not have been here. I'll just load it up right now. So here it is. So this is where the ISS is right now. If I zoom out, it's just over the Indian Ocean, just west of Australia. And if we refresh the page, excuse me, it'll update the latitude and longitude of this pin. Cool. So basically, what you're going to do is create a similar site in the fact that you're going to be doing similar things to what we did with the ISS site. So you're going to be pulling data from an API. In this case, it's going to be the Polka API. All right. What we used in first week, where we used Postman and we did our Polka API collection, we got Pokemon. So we used this URL and the get, and then we got the abilities as well. So basically, you're going to generate a list on this website of 5 Pokemon and their corresponding images and names on a web page. Okay, so this can just be offline. You don't have to host it. If you want to host it, that's great. But you're just going to have an index.html page and some scripts.js, and if you want to style it with styles.css. If you want to use Bootstrap, go for it. Then I will be able to click on the Pokemon name or image, and it will automatically update those elements on the page. So this is just gonna, refresh how we update elements on pages and how we connect to APIs and get data and store data. So basically, I have some examples here of what we're gonna do. This is important. It's not going to take me to a second page, because then you could just create the static content itself. You could just create a second page for, say, Charizard, and then if I clicked him, it would just take me to charizard.html. I don't want that, because then, that's not using the API. That's just going to be whatever you design charizard.html to look like. Instead, it's going to load a separate section on the same page from the API through dynamic JavaScript functions. So just like how we're updating the ISS location dynamically, it's going to do that by inserting it into the document div or p tags. Okay, and there's also going to be a separate detailed section, so it's going to show me their image, their name, the abilities, their height, and the base experience, as well as there'll be a secondary detail section that will show the list of abilities and stats. So when I click on the ability, it'll also load the ability details. So if I click on Squirtle, and then Squirtle has his ability of Torrent or whatever, or Rain Dish, it'll show me the ability effect in English, the ability short effect, and the flavor text, as well as the ability name. So here's an example of what I'm looking for here. Okay. So when you first load up the site, you've got your 5 Pokemon here. You can get images. You can use whatever images you want. And then I've got a name underneath them, right? So I've got 5 Pokemon. And then this specs details section, so the specifications of the Pokemon, is empty right now because nothing's clicked. And then the abilities section is empty right now because nothing's clicked. But if I scroll down here and I select Squirtle, okay, I want the image to update or something so it shows that he's selected. And then notice that these specifications will actually fill in. So it'll show his name, Squirtle, his abilities, Torrent and Rain Dish, his height of 5, and his base experience of 63. Now remember, all of this stuff, if I go to Postman and I get my favorite Pokemon, Pokemon Squirtle, you use this API key, or sorry, not key, you use this API /Pokemon/Squirtle, send, and it's gonna give me back all of that stuff. So here's his ability, Torrent, ability, Rain Dish, okay? And then it's also going to give me his base experience of 63. And if I keep scrolling down a little bit past all the game indices, it'll go and show me his height as well, which is right here, 5. Okay. If you want to include other information such as like moves, Mega Punch, or whatever, go for it. There is a ton of information. There's almost 12,000 lines of code here. So you can include as much as you want, but for this example, this is all I'm asking for. So that's where I got that information. So that's this. I just included the API key, or the API. I'm gonna stop saying that. The API link right here. And then I want to be able to click the abilities, and then it will autofill this side of the page. So if I clicked Torrent, then this would be the example of what I would see. So Squirtle's still selected. His details are still in the specifications, but now the ability names have filled in here. So Torrent has been selected. We can see it's highlighted over here. So, some type of visual indication that that's the ability I've clicked. And then the ability effect. So it's just a short sentence. And then the short effect, and then the flavor text. So again, if you just go to this request for the API right here, /ability/67, if I send this, you can see that this is originally it's in German. So what you'll have to do is you'll have to make sure that the language is English, EN, because up here it's DE, which is Deutsch, which is German. So you want to make sure that you click it where the language is English, get the effect, which is this sentence, the short effect, which is this sentence, and then the flavor text, right? Which is just that, flavor text entries, language, English, because there's multiple languages, I think, for the flavor text as well. If you don't get the right language, you might even get like, let's see, I think they even have like Mandarin and stuff in here. Yeah, like this, or like Thai. Yeah, so we want to get the English. Cool. So it'll look like this. Any questions about that? You guys understand what I'm looking for? Sweet. Cool. So that's due on, nice, awesome. Okay. That is due on the 11th of June. Awesome. All right. Sweet, Yashu. All right, and that's on Blackboard. All right. Let's see, where do I want to go? Firebase. Just get my code up here. All right, so I want to show you guys something, and then I want to give you a task to work a little bit asynchronously here without me walking you through it. I'll be available for questions, but I want to show you what I've built here. Go. And you can do with that. Okay, cool. All right. So if you go to Blackboard right now, close this. Blackboard tab. Okay. And you go to Weekly Learning Week 3, you'll see a link to a couple of tutorials, all right? Right here. So building a Node.js RESTful API in 10 minutes. Now, little warning, it's not actually going to take you 10 minutes. It'll probably take you a little bit longer. Connecting to MongoDB Cloud, and then a link to MongoDB Cloud. So what MongoDB is, has anyone heard of MongoDB or used MongoDB before?
Yeah, so it's basically like cloud database.
Perfect. And do you know the difference between like MongoDB and something like MySQL?
MySQL is basically like local database, whereas this one is cloud database. But I don't know major difference between them.
Okay, how about I guess so Mongo is basically like a NoSQL data type database, and MySQL is like structured query language. So does anyone know the difference between NoSQL and SQL?
Yeah,
Or
so
can
in
explain to you? Yeah,
SQL it is structured, so there are tables and columns and everything, whereas in NoSQL there is no such structure and all.
perfect. Do you know what the kind of structure is in NoSQL in Mongo and stuff?
Maybe
Documents?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yep, document?
Yes, documents. You got it. And documents are kind of structured in something that we've already kind of been talking about, hint, hint, over the last couple of weeks, which would be JSON. Yes, Yashu, perfect. Yeah, so SQL is predefined structure, exactly what you said, DC, and then documents is like the name for their version of tables. I think that was Nina that said that. And then JSON is the format of the data. So what I have here open is my cloud MongoDB. Now, if you open it up, you'll have to create an account or whatever. But basically, through Atlas, we can get a free version. Don't click the one where you pay like 8 cents per hour or whatever. It's just the free account. So if I just do this, do cloud.mongo, this is probably what it will look like for you guys. You hit try now, try free, sign up with Google, whatever. And then as you sign up, you can click your plan, just click the free plan, it's on the right. And then it'll take a little bit to create a cluster. And then once the cluster's created, you can create an actual database and a collection. Has anyone used Cloud Mongo before? No. Okay, cool. Yeah, no worries. So, I mean, we can go through setting it up. So, yeah, basically, you're going to sign in, choose your plan. You guys can do this right now as I'm talking. And then it'll show you the clusters page by default. And it will take a couple minutes to load and create the cluster. It has to just do some work in the back end and actually create the database environment for you. So the sooner you do that and get that rolling, then we can kind of move on past that. You've got these buttons here that let you manage your cluster. So I only have one cluster right now. If I create a new cluster, I'll kind of it'll put me in the same spot as you guys. So you'll choose your provider. So just do AWS North Virginia. There's a free tier in here. You could choose Canada, but the Montreal one isn't free. So we'll just do North Virginia. It's close enough. And then, yeah, at the bottom, we just hit, where's the free version? Cluster tier. Don't want to pay for it. Oh, maybe I have to pay if I'm making a second one. Let's see. Do you guys see this page though, the one that I'm talking about? And then you see the free option? I might not create a second one because are you guys able to create a cluster? I'll just create a second. I'll just create a second account here and we can run through this. What does your screens look like right now, you guys?
Yeah, I got the home screen.
You got the home screen.
Um,
Oh, like you actually signed up for it? Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Let's see. I'll just use a fake Google account here. All right. Got it. So you accept their terms and conditions, submit. All right. And then it's going to do some thinking in the back end, welcome us to the cloud database. MongoDB is kind of like, we can use JavaScript for our language and just, you can really call this whatever you want. Your organization name, tests. All right. Continue. You can skip this as well. It doesn't really matter. MongoDB is like, they kind of set the bar for cloud database hosting. You can also use PHPMyAdmin for structured query language. That's also free. All right, cool. So this is where we choose a cluster for free, right? On this right-hand side, shared clusters. We'll choose AWS, North Virginia, create the cluster. So this one is free. Okay, perfect. So I just can't create a second cluster for free. That's fine. So now this will take 1 to 3 minutes to create my cluster. No worries. Now, while our cluster is being created, has everyone got to this step? Can I see a show of hands? Perfect. Nina, on it. So you're creating your cluster. Perfect. Sagar, Yashu, how are you guys doing? Creating it. Okay, perfect. Well, that means that's all yeah, if you're on this page, perfect. So now what we can do is go to our database access page. While that cluster is loading, we're going to create a user for our database. So we're going to choose authentication mode password for our database and create for your user. Don't use any special characters or else it'll kind of make it confusing for your code in the server side because you're going to have to use escape characters and stuff. So don't use things like slashes, hyphens, and whatever. Just keep it pretty simple. So I'm going to create my user name. I'm going to keep it really simple. User and password will be password. I know it's not, excuse me. I know it's not secure at all, but this doesn't matter. This is just an example. So user and password, okay? And then here, read and write to any database. You can give them special privileges. as well, but for now, we'll just keep it read and write to any database. That's good. And we're going to click add user. The password provided is 2 weak. Oh, sheesh. Okay, so we can't do password. Whoops. Okay. User password will be also user. Let's see if that works. So make sure you either remember what you make it or write it down if you want to create an actual username and password. Just remember the special characters and stuff kind of are a little bit confusing later on when we create our server connection string and we connect to this cloud's database. All right, cool. So we've created that. Let's go back to our clusters. It's still being created. Has anyone's actually finished? This is always slower than 1 to 3 minutes for me when I do this. Anybody's finished? No, we're still waiting. Okay, no worries. All right. For network access, okay, we can also do this while we wait. Click network access on the side. Add IP address. So you want to add either your current IP address so your computer can access this database when you create a server, or you can allow access from anywhere. So this is what I'm going to do. It just allows clients to create connections to this database or this cluster from the IP address. So this allows anyone to connect to it. So just keep that in mind for like security reasons and whatever. But for the data that we're doing in this example, it's completely fine. All right, so you will only be able to connect to your cluster from the following list of IP addresses. So that's creating. Nice. See if our cluster is created. All right. So now that the cluster is created, we can see some information about it. Here on connect, that's where you can get your connection string in a little bit. We'll talk about that. We need to create an actual collection first, which is like a database inside of this cluster. So that's like our database environment, cluster 0. And then we're going to click add my own data once we are in the collections menu, okay? Add my own database. Add my own data. We're going to create a database name. So for this database name, you can do example, and then the collection name can be what did I create on the other one? Just check. I want to make sure I'm naming this correctly. Collections, example, tasks, right? So our collection name will be tasks. So the database is example, collections, tasks. Oh, an unexpected error occurred. Example, tasks. It won't let me do it. Does it let you do it? Students? Yeah, you can call it that. It let you do it? Okay. Well, as long as you know what you called it. If I create users, sure. Users. Cool. All right, so we can kind of see our structure here. And we've obviously got no data in there, but we've created the environment for our database. So now if we go back to clusters and then we click this connect string, we want to be able to connect our application to it, right? So there's a middle option, connect your application to a cluster using MongoDB's native drivers. So if you click this and you choose the driver and the version that you're using, make sure you're just using the latest version of Node 3.6 or later. You can copy this or click this button, but you have to make sure that your password, you get rid of the, well, you just replace it. So you get rid of this symbol, the greater than and less than symbol, and you just type your password. So for me, it was, what was it, test or something? I forget what I already made it, user and test or user and user or something like that. And then when you actually go to connect, I think I called my user. You just make sure you replace it with your connection credentials. And then my first database, you would make what I called example, you would call whatever you called yours. So for my example, I called it example. All right, so you can copy that. We won't need that this second, but that's good that that's created. Okay, cool. So if we go to Blackboard, you can see that that's this one, I believe. So creating a cloud database, we just went through this. Step 3, choosing your plan, creating your user, granting the privileges, getting your connection string. Okay, next thing you need to do. Yes. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to use something called Node.js. So basically, Node.js allows us to create a server that runs on our machine and install like a lot of packages through NPM, which is Node Package Manager. Has anyone used Node.js before? And NPM and all that kind of stuff? Using Express or no? Okay, cool. Well, that's fine. So you guys can play around with it a little bit. I want to, if you guys haven't used it before, I want to give you guys better, because right now I just have the code. I want to be able to give you guys like some PowerPoints and descriptive readings on what Node.js is. Let's see if we just do this. So basically, yeah, it's a JavaScript runtime environment, and it runs on their V8 engine, and allows you to run a server from your machine. Okay, so npm is part of JS, and it allows us to install all these other types of packages that people have written. So things like Express is a library that we can use, and you can install it through Node Package Manager. So Express is like a framework, a JavaScript framework that we can use with our Node.js server, and then we're using MongoDB as the database. So there's something called the mean stack, MEAN. So it stands for MongoDB Express.js Angular if you want to make a front end interface for it, and then Node.js. So if you want to install these things, let's kind of go through this here. Google Node.js and go to their website. Now, depending on what you have here, you're going to choose the Windows version or the Mac version. Go to the downloads page. You can choose recommended for most users, the LTS, the latest stable version, or you can choose the current, which has the latest features. You can just stick with the LTS because we're not using anything crazy. Either do the Windows or the Mac installer. If your machine's 64 or 32-bit, just choose your own version. Run through the install. If you have any questions or issues with it, just let me know. There's a section when you'll be clicking next to the installer wizard. It asks if you want to install Chocolatey. You don't need to check that because we won't be using that. So I'll just give you guys a couple minutes to work through that. And let me know when you guys have finished installing Node.js on your machine. The way you'll know if you have Node.js installed on your machine, if I open up a command prompt here, all right? It doesn't matter where I am. I can just do node-v. You can see here my version is 16.3.0. All right. I can do node-help and I can get all these different types of help codes. But yeah, just Node-V will be pretty helpful. Let's see. Yours shows 14.17. So you might have an older version of Node. That's fine. You can just update to the latest just by, yeah. So if you have a Mac, it's really nice. You can update automatically. If you have Windows, you have to go to the downloads page and just click. So you have 14.7.0. Oh, okay. So I've done current, which is 16.3, I believe.
Yeah, so for LTS it is 14.17.0.
Yeah, okay. So actually maybe just do the current one because that's what I've been using.
Okay.
Perfect. Has everybody else got it installed? Perfect. Nina, awesome. So Express is it's basically going to be a framework that's going to help us more easily build an API without as much effort. And a lot of code is like pre-written for us, so that is really helpful. Do you guys know what I mean when I talk about like an MVC architecture? Model view controller? Because if not, I should do a little bit of a recap about that. You do? Yeah. Okay, you have used. Does everybody else know what MVC is? Do you want to explain it? Test you. Who wants to give me a little explanation about model view controller? Go for it. Someone. Take it away. I'll pick someone if no one wants to go. DC, do you want to explain what a model view controller is?
It basically like a structure where everything is differentiated from, like, model is the one where we store variables, everything, whereas in view there is designing stuff, and in controller which interacts with the server and all.
Yeah, perfect. Exactly. That's basically it. Yeah. So your models here in your database and whatever, you can represent them however you want in JSON. And then you interact with the controller through your HTTP requests, basically your REST API and everything. And then you'll use all the views from the controller to get your HTML, your JSON, um, and you'll interact with those three things to build your website. Right, here's maybe a more simple version of it. So a user will have a browser, they'll go through the controller or the API, right, to get the model from the database. It'll bring it back, send it to the view, and then the view will display it in the correct way. All right. So Express kind of helps us organize the web applications on a server side into more organized MVC architecture or model view controller. Let's see. Cool. So Express is basically based off of JavaScript. Um, it allows us to do have access to database, client requests, and other middlewares. We can do routing through Express, templates, and debugging, and then we can more easily develop a server side for our application. All right. So we'll have Node installed. Now I have all of the packages installed already that I need. I do want to show you guys. Okay, let's see here. Once Node is installed, we're going to go through this tutorial. Oh, not this one. Right here, together. Okay, so we've created our users in our database and everything online. We're going to use Visual Studio Code, or I'll use, what was the other one? Brackets. Oh, Sublime. Oh, just because I have VS Code open right now. You guys can use whatever you want. All right. So in Sublime, we're going to want to create a structure like this. So you're going to create a new folder. I'll actually just open a folder here. I'll create a new folder, call it, test or whatever you want to call it. File, open folder. So this is going to be like basically our website. It's in here. Test. All right. There it is. Cool. So we have Node.js installed, we have our IDE, and then we need to install these packages. So to begin, what we're going to do is open a new folder where we're going to build our connection. And then in this folder, what we want to do is create some files. So his folder is called server, our folder is called test, it doesn't matter. And the files will be db.js, index.js, and some package files, all right? So how we can do that, I don't know if someone joined or if I lost someone there. Okay, perfect. We can open up CMD, command prompt, and I can just go to the directory by cd, and then I paste my directory. So right now, I am in my Windows Explorer. I'm in here with my CMD. You can see I'm at e/desktop teaching mobile APIs and frameworks week 3 test. So I'm in here. Now, if I do this, we can create files really easily. If I want to do, oh, how do you do it? Make dir index.js. Oh, that's the folder. I don't want to create a folder. Getting how to create the file. Let's see here. Installed node. Sorry guys, I'm just gonna, there we go. Make sure I get this. Touch, that's it. So, where'd I go? Following this tutorial, okay, we want to have these files. So we'll do touch server.js. Now, if you're on, oh, did it not work? If you're on Mac, it won't work. You can also just create the files yourself. We'll do that because that's not working the way I want it to work. Okay. Oh, I see why. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm forgetting steps. All right, so once you're in this folder, you're going to do npm init, all right? And that will initialize Node Package Manager in this folder, okay? So now, it's creating a package name as test. You can just hit enter, version 1, yes, description, test connection string. Entry point index.js, test command. We'll just skip that. Get repository, we'll skip that. Keywords, we'll skip that. Author, put your own name in here. License, yeah, ISC, sure. And then it'll give you a final review of kind of like what your, I believe this is the package.json or package file. You just hit yes, okay. So now you can see the package.json file here is open, and that's just what we created. Has everyone got that step done? Just give me a little thumbs up when you guys do that. Forgot about the npm init. That was the line that I was missing. So we're initializing our node package manager, and then we're going to install Express and Mongoose. Okay, cool. Sweet. So I'm also going to create a couple new files here. So let's see, he's got db.js and index.js. All right, so we're going to save this as index.js. Sagar, Yashu, DC, I don't know, I might have missed your thumbs up, but you guys got it working? Yep. Index.js, okay. db.js. Sagar, Yashu, sorry, I might have missed you guys again. Yashu's got it, cool. What was the command, please? npm install. So npm init, just this. You don't need the -y, just do npm init, init. And db.js, we'll save that as. So just create these files once you've, so we've got index.js, db.js, and they've got package.json, and then I don't know what's the other package that they've created here. Connection server. Yeah, okay. Index.js, yes, the file type, yeah. You got it. So right here, main is index.js. That's basically the server file. Some people call this server.js. Is that what you mean, file type? File type is JavaScript for both.
Yeah, that the file type which we select in a file explorer.
Sorry, say that again?
The file type which we select while saving the file.
Yeah, JavaScript. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So it'll look like this. You got JSON, JavaScript. Cool. So we create those three files. This next one I think will come when we actually install our packages here with Node. Oops. Just keep this over here. All right. All right. So next step here, we want to install 3 dependencies. And these dependencies are going to be used for different things. So Express, I was already kind of telling you about as a framework for building servers and server-side applications. Mongoose is going to be what we're using to connect to our database, right? So MongoDB. And then NodeMon is basically going to be what we use to automatically restart the server so we don't have to manually do it every single time. So it's a Node.js monitor, okay? Express is used to make the API, and then Mongoose is so we can connect our database. So npm-i is basically, it stands for Node Package Manager Install. So npm-i, and you can do these one at a time just by doing npm-i nodemon, and it will go, and you can see it's downloading. This is the status bar down here. And as it's downloading, you can see it just created a folder here called node modules. And then it just also created this package lock.json. So that was the other package file, package-l. We can see it just created package lock. So if I also open this here, this is just the we don't need to touch this file. This is just thousands of lines of code, but that's for Node monitor, Node.js monitor, okay? 11 packages are looking for these details, npm fun for details, 0 vulnerabilities. Cool. So we installed that one. And we can see now here, it just added a dependency under our license right here for NodeMon. So it's now using that package. It just installed it. Now, if we want to install the other two, you can do them at the same time as well. npm I express. Just make sure you put a space in between and then mongoose, and it will download both of those here. And then watch here. It'll actually add those dependencies in my file as it downloads them. So that's downloaded Express and Mongoose. And if I click it, it just updated right there. See that? And it will download the latest version. So here, this little uptick arrow. So 4.17.1 is the latest version. And then this uptick arrow is, you can put it here beside this. Oops. You can put it here beside this, but if you put it here beside the front one, it'll always keep it up to date to the most recent major release, right? So 2.07, and then it will always keep it up to date. So that's good. We can save that. All right. Has everyone got that done? Cool. So the next thing we want to do is in our package.json, right here under, where is it? Under main inside of scripts, we're going to want to add another script. So here, what I want to do is add a script called start. Make sure we do this correctly. Put a comma after that, start, colon, and then we use NodeMon. That's what we are using to automatically restart our server. You'll see what this does. So I'll just save that. And now what we can do with this line of code added, saved, is we can type in our command line npm start. And what that's going to do is it's going to start a server here. So we can see NodeMon 2.07 to restart at any time, enter rs, and then starting node index.js, clean exit, waiting for changes before a restart. So what that means is now, as I'm editing my code, I can type some stuff, I can erase it, and I do Control S. Look at what happens. It notices that there were some changes in my server, and then it just restarted automatically and restarted my index.js server file. Cool. I'm going to give you guys a 10-minute break if you want to grab a coffee or whatever, or take a walk. We can continue going through this tutorial. If you want to go ahead, go for it. I'm going to keep picking up from right here. So basically, we just added that script, the start script. I'm going to keep picking up from here, adding some constants for requiring Express JS in our project. But 10-minute break, I'll pause the recording, and then we can get back into it, okay? Any questions before I go? If you guys are good. Yep, okay, cool. Sweet. All right, I'll pause the recording, and then we'll come back at 4:13. All right, welcome back. Hopefully everyone is still with us here. Give me a little thumbs up or say hi if you want. Cool. All right. As the rest of us settle back in, sweet, Nina, awesome. Maybe you guys are just hearing me over your AirPods and then you're running back up to your computer as it goes. All right, so we're ready for our code. So we're going to go to our index.js and we're going to add some constants to add express to our server or our index.js file. All right, so we'll call it const express. We're just going to copy the code that they have here. We're just following this tutorial to get our database connected. Okay. Now,
The screen's not being shared.
oh, thank you. That is important. All right. Share the screen here. Thanks, Nina. All right. How's that look? Is that better? Awesome. Cool. Is everybody else still following along? Awesome. Okay, sweet. Thanks, Yashu. Makes me feel like I'm not crazy. Talking to a screen all day. All right, cool. So we can just copy this code. I'll just go through it slower so you guys can follow along. So we made a variable or a constant variable called express, and then we're requiring express, and that's for making our API. All right, we can comment this later. That's for later. Okay, const app equals express. So app is just app is what we use to actually run the app. So you'll see later on we do like app.get request and response. So that's the requests and responses that we're going to be sending through HTTP requests to our API. App.listen is also how we like hear if the server is working, or like we listen on a port to see if the server is actually running. So we're setting it to equal the express variable that we've just required from our dependency on express. All right. So now we're going to create a port for our server, because it can't just run on the server alone on localhost. It has to have a port. So we will call it port equals process.environment.port. And I'm going to put it on, I already have something on my port 3000, so we're going to put it on 4000. And then here we're going to use our app variable, and the use function we're going to be using, these are just some URL encoded, extended, true. These are just some environment settings that we have to have set up in order for things to work properly. App.use express.json. So that'll use the JSON data type when we are requesting and responding in data. It's going to be using JSON. All right, and then app.get. So this is just going to be getting an empty path, right? An empty API path. So you know how when we've used APIs in the past, we use like Poca API slash Pokemon slash abilities slash 67. All those slashes are different paths that are getting the specific ability at that path for that value. So if we're just getting slash, it's an empty path. It's going to return basically nothing, but it's just testing that everything is working fine. So request and response. Okay, cool. Still need a closing bracket on that. And response that send is going to say that our API is working. Okay. To close that. Let's see. Okay, I closed it here when I shouldn't have closed it. There we go. All right, so that bracket closes here. All right, and then we're going to listen on our port. That's actually going to start. That's going to give us back something in the console, which is CMD here, which will respond at console.log, the server has started. Even though we can see that everything is started, it says starting. We don't actually get a response saying that it has officially started. So we're going to put something in our console here. App.listen. We want to listen. We're going to pass in the port variable, and then we're going to pass in our request and response variables as well. Let's see here. And then console.log server started at port. Now, the way they're doing it there, I mean, you can do it this way. You can also just concatenate it plus port. Let's see if that works. We saved it. Oh, crashed. Require is not defined because I spelt it wrong. Express is not defined because it only has one S. Express. Where did I spell it with one S? What line of code is that? Index.js line 12. Ah, there. Save. There. So you should get this. Restarting, starting Node.js, and then server started at port 4000, right? And that's the port that I set, port 4000. Cool. Has everyone got that working? That's what they show here. So we'll continue with that later, but we're going to come back to our MongoDB. Okay, cool, nice. DC, great. Nina, Sagar, Yashu, how'd you guys go with that? Thumbs up, awesome, cool. No questions. Sagar, thumbs up, great. Yashu, following along. So this is the beginning of creating our own API, just the basic steps. So what we're going to do is go back to our clusters. So I'm going to click on here and we'll see, we're going to go to our clusters and we've already created an API or IP address, sorry, for our database. So we don't have to do this because we already did that. Add a current IP, connect to a cluster, connect to your application, and you'll see this. You're going to get your connection string. So that's the link we're going to grab, right? Now, when we go here, grab it from this link, connect. Whoops, not metrics. I clicked the wrong link. I want to go to connect. Connect your application, copy this. Remember, it's not my first database. For me, I made it, I called it example, I believe. Collection name was loading. Sheesh. While that's loading, my username is user and my password. Do you guys remember what I made my password? I will update the password to be also user. I think. And yes, it's example. Okay, cool. So when we come back to our code, this is all going to be in db.js, right? We're going to make a constant for our mongoose, which is how we interact with our MongoDB. And this is requiring mongoose. And then we are going to create a constant for our DB connection string and paste in what we just got there. Now, remember, user is correct here for me because I called my user user. For you, you might have to create a user and retype what it's called. Now here for password, I created my password being user, but do you see these two little angle brackets? I need to get rid of those because that will not be parsed correctly. Now, also my first database, that's incorrect. It's example. That's the name of my collection. Okay, so those three things you have to make sure are correct. All right, save that. Is that saved? Continue on. All right. Make sure we end that. All right, now we're going to create a function, an asynchronous function called initiate Mongo server. All right, and this is going to be what actually is called to start our server. And we're going to put it in a try catch. Do you guys know what a try catch is? Does someone want to explain to me what a try catch is?
If any error occur in try block, then it will execute the catch block.
Awesome. Yeah, perfect. You got it. So yeah, basically any error that happens, we'll catch it in this E. You can also catch specific errors. Right now we're just catching a generic error and then we're going to console.log it. Just so we can kind of get some type of idea as to what went wrong. Otherwise we'd have no idea what goes wrong. And then yeah, it'll throw E. We'll throw the error down here. Now in the try block, that's where we're going to try to actually connect our Mongoose or a Mongo server database. This requires a couple parameters. So first it requires the DB connection string, all right? And then in here, it's going to take these two environment variables, use new URL parser, true, and use unified topology, true. Now, you can ask me what those are. I actually can't tell you off the top of my head. So let me just Google this really quick. Because that is new to me, parser. I know I've done it without it before, and it gives me an error that you have to include it in your thing. You only need to check whether your app successfully connects. Once it's connected to the URL parser is no longer important. Yeah, okay, so if you can't connect without it being set to true, then you can open an issue. So this parses our connection string, and it helps us to know if our connection is working or not. Now, the use unified topology true, what does that do? It's a connection parameter in the event of a loss of connection that it will not be restored. Okay. So maybe it has something to do with restoring your connection if there's a loss of connection. Anyways, these are what are suggested connection parameters, so we will use them. Cool. So then we catch, actually before we end our try, after that we will console.log connected to DB if it connects. Now, if it doesn't connect, we won't see that. We'll see the error, right? Now, all we need to do is use this is all in our db.js file, and the function should be run in the index.js file. So what we want to do is come back to our index.js, and then we'll create another const at the top where we require this, we'll call it initiate Mongo server equals require, and then we're going to get this file, which is /db.js. So basically it's going to include this file, everything we just wrote, into here. It just keeps our code cleaner and separates the DB connection from the actual server code. All right, so after we do that, what we can do is actually call. You want to call it before creating the app. It's fine. Call the actual function, initiate Mongo server, like this. It will go here, it'll go to the /db.js file, and then it will run initiate Mongo server, and it will do the mongoose.connect and use this connection string to connect to our database. All right. Now, if we go to our npm manager, okay, if we save all of this, let's see if anything happens. So if you ever want to close your server, you do Control-C. Terminate batch job, hit yes, and then we'll do npm start again. So we'll restart it manually this time. It's starting. Oh, it looks like there's an error. Initiate Mongo server is not a function. /index.js41 server /db initiate Mongo server. Let's make sure I spelled it correctly. Looks like I did. If anyone can find my typo, you can say something in chat or just unmute your mic. What did I do wrong here? Function.
So I checked out the website, and there's a module.exports equals initiate Mongo server at the end of the db.js. but I
Yes,
don't think we did.
I did miss that. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so we want to actually export the function so that it can be called by another file. Perfect. Thanks for catching that. All right, so let's put that back in here at the end of db.js after here. All right, so we throw E. I actually am missing my colon and then this. So now if we save this, connect it to DB, look at that. It's connected. That's awesome. So that's what everyone should be able to see now. Let's get some thumbs up if that's what you guys see. Nice. Great. Perfect. So you're connected to your database. What you should be able to see now is if you come to your database, you should be able to see a list of connections. If you go to clusters, right here, boom. That was, oh no, it should say connections right here. I think it might be this spike here, but that looks like it's operations. Connections, let's see, there was one connection here. Oh, two connections. Maybe because I restarted my server. And that was just right now at 2031. Fourth. Cool. So what I want to do in the future with you guys, or what you can do on your own, is in Blackboard, there's this build Node.js RESTful API in 10 minutes on your own time, or next week, what I'll do is I'll also go over it, but I might just post a video and record myself doing it, so you can do it on your own time as well. Is you're going to create, let me close this, you're going to create an API, and you're going to create basically model views and controllers. So I have my server.js file here, which is very similar to what we just did. It's running on port 3000, and basically I initiate my server, my database in the server.js file where we just separated it into a db.js file. It's fine. It says connected to db. Here I catch my error, so that's all the same thing. I use initiate Mongo server. And then here, I say, yes, the server started. Now you can see that it's running on port 3000 right now. So what I can do is I can use Postman on my localhost port 3000, and I can do /tasks because that's one of the routes that I created. And if I hit send and I hit get, then I can see this is one of the tasks. I'm creating like a to-do list API. So read Node.js server in 10 minutes was one of them, and then the other one I just changed the number to 140. But we can also post to our database from here, and what we can do is, as long as the key matches what's being expected in one of the routes, we can type whatever we want in here, send it to our API, and then if we change this back to get, look at that, now there's 3, and here's whatever we want is being stored. Now, if I go to my Mongo, right, and I click tasks, because that's my database, it'll load the documents that I've sent through the API through Postman, and you'll be able to actually see them right here. So while that loads in the background, let me show you the code. So this server.js file is really similar to what we just created. Now you can see up here in my API folder, I've got a controllers folder, a models folder, and a routes folder. Now the tutorial will walk you through this, but basically a route is, the actual /URL route that I'm going to type into my Postman or my API middleware to do either a get or a post. Now here I also can do /tasks/task ID get, put, or delete, and I can get some more specific information on the task ID. So let's look here. This is my cloud MongoDB. You can see I've got my 3 objects in the database here. And now here's the ID right there. So if I go to Postman, we just copy the ID and I go /tasks/this. I should be able to get that specific task, right? Because that was one of the routes that I created right here. And it will do to-do list dot read a task. Now, where is that? What's happening there? Well, in controller, we've got these methods, right? So list all tasks, if I come to my routes, is right there. Read a task, okay? So that's the slash tasks task ID. Read a task is right here. And what it will do is we'll get a request and a response, and then it will just send a response in JSON of that task that's been requested, right? It's the same thing that's happening here. Okay, if we want to delete a task, we use the .remove function, and then it sends a response saying task successfully deleted. So that's the routes, that's the controller, and then the model is basically how we're saving it to the actual database. When you use that URL in Postman, what it will do is it'll create a task schema, so kind of like a table or a table structure. So the name has to be called name because that's the key right there. So name is the key, and then the type is the data type, it's a string, and then please enter a name of the task. So if you leave this empty, I believe, and then we do post, and just tasks, it'll say error, kindly enter the name of a task. So we can also do a date. So if I wanted to put a date in here and then do type date or a status, right? And then those are the types of things that I can post into my database. And these are, remember how JSON is kind of created? It's similar to that, how we're creating our schema here. So our model is representing the models in the database. And then you have to make sure your model name, tasks, is the same as your model or your collection name in your cluster inside of your database example. Sorry, this is the wrong one. That was the one I just created. It's called tasks, see? Otherwise, it won't actually be able to input anything. All right? Does that make sense to you guys? I know that this is like way more complicated than what we just did because all we did was we connected to our database. The next thing to do is to fool around with creating a route, creating a controller, and creating a model. I will cover a very simple version of this with just one route, one controller, and one model, and then you know we can go from there. But if you want to follow the tutorial, it's on Blackboard at this link here. Building a Node.js RESTful API in 10 minutes. It's really helpful. If you have questions, you can email me. But yeah, how do you guys feel about doing that? Sweet. Cool. Well, that's where I'm going to leave it for today. I just wanted to show you guys that running here. It's sort of like, you know, we connected our app through Mongo to Express, but we didn't actually really use Express yet because we didn't make the routes and we weren't actually able to send data through Postman. But you'll be able to do that if you keep following this tutorial and moving on. You can also use a continuation of the tutorial here that we were working on here. This one, they have a lot of tutorials on how to make APIs and stuff through Express. So yeah, take a read of that. Experiment, fool around. I'll probably do something next week where I upload a video and then you can follow along. If you've already done this, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But that's it for me today for APIs and frameworks. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If you guys have any questions about the assignment for the Pokemon thing, remember that's due next week, Friday at 11:59 p.m. If not, then thanks, everybody. Sweet. Cool. All right. Thank you. Thanks, Nina. All right. Feel free. I'm going to stop the recording.